He built one of the most powerful empires in African history. But being Shaka Zulu, that was one of the hardest lives imaginable. From the very beginning, other kids made Shaka's life miserable. He was mocked, excluded, and treated like an outsider in his own village. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Shaka was born illegitimate. His father, Sanzanga Kona, had broken tribal law by being with his mother, Nandi. And everyone made sure Shaka knew it. As a young boy, Shaka spent long, lonely hours herding cattle, isolated and unwanted. No friends, no respect, just silence and shame. When Shaka was just 6 years old, he and his mother were banished, exiled from their own home and forced to wander as outcasts. 6 years old. His own father, the chief, refused to acknowledge him properly. Imagine growing up knowing your dad was a king, and he still wanted nothing to do with you. Night after night, young Shaka sat alone while others celebrated inside. Rejection this deep doesn't just hurt, it changes a person forever. Other boys laughed at him constantly. He was the outsider, the illegitimate kid, the one nobody wanted around. That kind of humiliation leaves scars. One famous story tells of young Shaka losing a dog that ate one of his father's sheep. The punishment and humiliation that followed were devastating for a small child. Shaka and his mother drifted from clan to clan, never truly belonging anywhere. Each new village was another fresh start and another fresh rejection. Even something as small as not having proper sandals became a source of mockery. Every little difference was a weapon other children used against him. Finally, a powerful chief named Dingi Sweo saw something in Shaka and took him in. But even here, Shaka had to earn everything the hard way, from the very bottom. Shaka trained alone, obsessively, driven by years of rage and humiliation. While others rested, he practiced. His pain became his fuel. When Dingiswayo was captured and killed by a rival king, Shaka lost the one person who had truly believed in him. The mentor who gave him purpose, gone. Shaka stepped up to lead the Zulu clan, but nobody was excited about it. He was unproven, unconventional, and distrusted. Leading people who don't want to follow you is exhausting. The throne wasn't comfortable. From day one, Shaka ruled with anxiety, always wondering who was loyal and who was plotting against him. Shaka revolutionized Zulu weapons, replacing long-throwing spears with a short stabbing spear called the ikwa. Great idea, but his warriors initially thought he was completely wrong. He also banned sandals, forcing his warriors to toughen their feet by running on rocky ground. His soldiers hated this. Imagine your boss telling you to throw away your shoes. Shaka's military genius won battle after battle, but every victory came at a massive human cost. The victories were real. So was the blood. He expanded the Zulu kingdom dramatically, but the territory he gained came from the destruction of dozens of other peoples. Power always has a price. Despite ruling thousands of people, Shaka ate alone. He trusted almost no one, and intimacy, real friendship, was something he never truly found. The pressure of leadership consumed him. He became increasingly erratic, impossible to predict, terrifying to work for, and deeply unstable under the surface. Threats came from every direction: rival kingdoms, internal enemies, and now Europeans arriving on the coast. Shaka could never truly rest. He had built something extraordinary, but standing at the top of your empire and feeling completely alone might be the worst feeling of all. His temper became legendary and terrifying. Advisors who brought bad news risked everything. Over time, people stopped telling him the truth, which made everything worse. Shaka worked himself into the ground, planning campaigns, managing politics, enforcing discipline. He was burning out long before he was killed. Each military setback hit him harder than the last. The man who had built an empire of victories could not emotionally handle defeat. The endless wars, the isolation, the stress, it aged him. The young man full of fire was becoming something harder, colder, and more frightened. In 1827, his beloved mother, Nandi, died. For Shaka, this was completely devastating. She was his anchor, the one person he had always had. After Nandi's death, Shaka's behavior became alarming. He ordered extreme mourning practices across the entire kingdom, forcing grief onto everyone around him. He launched campaigns even when his army was exhausted. His warriors were pushed past their limits, loyal out of fear, not love. The endless wars depopulated entire regions. Villages stood empty. Communities were destroyed. The Mfecane, the Great Scattering, left southern Africa transformed forever. All this time, his half-brothers, Dingun and Mylangina, were quietly plotting. The betrayal was already growing, right inside his own family. Paranoia consumed him. He saw enemies everywhere. And tragically, this time, he was actually right. But by now, he couldn't tell the real threats from the imagined ones. His grip on power tightened, but the harder he held, the more people quietly slipped away in their hearts. You cannot rule with fear forever. When European traders arrived, Shaka tried to engage diplomatically, but the cultural gap was enormous. Neither side truly understood the other, and that would cost the Zulu people dearly in the future. Shaka kept launching more campaigns, further, longer, harder. His warriors were stretched thin across thousands of miles. Even a great engine burns out eventually. The man who deserved celebration received obedience instead. There is a heartbreaking difference between people who follow you because they love you and people who follow you because they fear you. After Nandi's death, Shaka would never be the same. He visited her grave alone, without ceremony. The king had nobody left. His grief-driven decrees became increasingly erratic. He ordered bans on farming and other extreme acts of national mourning that pushed his people to their limits. By late 1828, chaos surrounded the Zulu kingdom from within and without. Shaka sat at the center of it all, alone, holding it together by sheer force of will. His dealings with the British were tense and complicated. Shaka was a brilliant military strategist, but international diplomacy was a game with completely different rules. The next generation was already drifting away from his vision. He had shaped a nation, but he could not shape the future. Information coming from all directions contradicted itself. No one gave him straight answers anymore. The isolation at the top was complete. In his final months, Shaka barely slept. His mind ran constantly. Threats, enemies, memories. The great king had become a prisoner of his own thoughts. On September 22, 1828, his half-brothers Dingan and Melangina approached him in the evening. Shaka heard something and began to turn. He was stabbed by his own brothers, the people who shared his blood. The greatest military mind of his age was not killed in battle. He was betrayed at home. According to legend, Shaka's last words were a prophecy, warning that the white men would come and rule the land. Even dying, he saw clearly. He was buried without ceremony in an unmarked grave. The man who had changed history was gone at just 41 years old. But death is never the end of a story this big. Shaka's impact would echo across history, felt in every corner of southern Africa and far beyond. Today, Shaka Zulu is studied in schools, featured in museums, and remembered as one of the greatest military leaders the world has ever produced. His legacy includes a unified Zulu nation, revolutionary military tactics still studied today, and a cultural identity that millions of Zulu people carry with pride. But think about that little boy sitting alone under a tree, unloved and unwanted. He had no idea what he would become. Pain can be a strange kind of fuel. KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa is named in his honor. The kingdom he built with nothing but willpower and genius still carries his name. Monuments stand in his memory across South Africa. He is not just history. He is identity, pride, and a warning about the cost of power. So let's quickly recap the biggest disadvantages Shaka faced, because the list is genuinely brutal. Born illegitimate, exiled as a child, mentored, then abandoned by fate, rose to power only to be consumed by it. brilliant, but deeply, tragically, alone. 5 massive disadvantages. The shame of his birth, the exile of his childhood, the loneliness of his power, the grief of his losses, and the betrayal of his own blood. Shaka Zulu walked into history carrying every one of those burdens, and he still changed the world. That's not an excuse. That's a testament if you made it this far. You now know why it truly sucked to be Shaka Zulu. Like and subscribe if history this real hits different. See you in the next one.